Do we need government to solve all the problems we face in the world? But what if there was a way not only we could avoid utilizing government's tyrannical structure to solve these problems, but what if there's a way we could actually go ahead and start doing it right now? Yeah, let's talk about that.
Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to The Brian Nichols Show.
Well, hey there, folks. Brian Nichols here on The Brian Nichols Show, and thank you for joining us on, of course, another fun-filled episode. I am, as always, your humble host, joining you from our lovely Cardio Miracle Studios here in, yes, lovely Eastern Indiana. The Brian Nichols Show is powered by AMP America. Really excited to be powered by AMP America and part of the AMP America team. Opinion articles, anything you could really look for in terms of news. And also, by the way, yours truly plus Nick Freitas are two of the landmark shows over on AMP America. So some awesome, really cool original content, I might say so myself. So go ahead, support AMP America at ampamerica.com. Really excited to be part of the AMP America team. Also, yours truly very excited to be powered by Cardio Miracle, our studio sponsor. And folks, I've been using Cardio Miracle now for 7 months. And I said it, I'm going to say it again. The Cardio Miracle difference, 1,000% real. And I've seen it for myself, and I want you to see it for yourself as well. Now, the Cardio Miracle difference is just this. Better sleep. I almost went the Papa John's route. Better ingredients, Papa John's. No, better sleep, lower blood pressure, better pump at the gym, all of that and more. The secret ingredient is nitric oxide, which it really isn't that much of a secret ingredient. More so is it's a super awesome and effective ingredient. Now, one thing I got to point out here too, by the way, folks, Cardio Miracle, it tastes incredible. I've had a lot of those other nutrient supplement drinks. There's one that's a green powder and it comes in a really fancy green jar. Yeah, it tastes like poison bubble gum. Don't go that route. It's just not good. Cardio Miracle, it helps you feel better and it tastes incredible. So it's a win-win, candidly, but also I've seen it for myself. Lower blood pressure. My doctor's been raving about that. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, Cardio Miracle. It's the best heart health supplement in the world. And she's like, interesting. So folks, if you want to go ahead and enjoy the Cardio Miracle benefits for yourself, well, join the tens of thousands of other folks by heading over to either briannicholsshow.com/heart. Head below here in the description. The link is right here as well. Or head to cardiomiracle.com. Use code TBNS, The Brian Nichols Show, 15% off your order. You have nothing to lose. It's a 100% money back guarantee. And I promise you, if you go back and watch the episode with our good friend John Hewlett, founder and CEO of Cardio Miracle, you'll see exactly why I'm so on board with this, and also why I want you to be on board as well. So one more time, link in the show notes, Cardio Miracle, the best heart health supplement in the world. Now, going forward to today's guest, this actually ties very well into Cardio Miracle, believe it or not. This is what we call a segue, folks. Cardio Miracle was designed by John Hewlett because John saw a very real problem. Heart disease was the #1 killer in the United States. And John, instead of saying, you know what, somebody in government should address this, darn it, what John did was he went out of his way and he made the solution. He made Cardio Miracle. And I'm really excited for today's guest, another John Bush. He's joining us from the Live Free Academy. And we're going to be talking about how John is finding success in helping bring solutions to very real problems we see out there in the world outside of saying, Mr. Government, can I have permission? Joining us here from the Live Free Academy, John Bush. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me. I
Great
like
to
your
have
energy.
you on the show, man. I try, at the end of the day, we'll peek behind the curtain, folks. We're recording here at like a 5 p.m. on a Thursday. So both John and I, we've had the day of work behind us, and most folks are running on fumes, but not here in the Brian Nichols Show, John. Here in the Brian Nichols Show, we bring the energy, we bring the enthusiasm, but also we bring the solutions. And that's what you're bringing to us today, John. Do us a favor. Introduce yourself, Live Free Academy, and what are you doing in this world of anarchism, agorism, and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, sure. So I've been an activist for about 22 years now. Ever since I kind of woke up to what took place on September 11th, started questioning the official narrative of all sorts of stuff. That led me down a rabbit hole of understanding the conspiratorial view of history. Learned about libertarianism from the good Dr. Ron Paul during his 2007-2008 presidency, and started a political action committee shortly thereafter in Central Texas called Texans for Accountable Government. And this began a whole lot of really heavy local and state activism. And, we had these victories. We stopped police officers from being trained to do blood withdrawals in the city of Austin on the side of the road. We managed to get these privacy policies enacted for the Department of Homeland Security Fusion Center. There was like 9 of them in Texas. They merged local, state, and federal law enforcement information gathering and intelligence sharing practices. A whole lot of other stuff we accomplished as well. But when I reflected back on it, I realized that we hadn't actually created more freedom for ourselves. We simply slowed the growth of tyranny, and that was not satisfactory for me. So around 2010, 2011, I really started leaning into this idea of, if we want to create freedom for ourselves, we got to take responsibility and start doing it with ourselves, with our community, by creating alternative institutions. Started promoting alternative currencies like silver dimes and barter networks. And then I learned about Bitcoin in 2012, 2013, really got involved in the crypto space, helped to co-found a network of over 41,000 people now globally. It's called the Freedom Cell Network. And it's just people that recognize there's a problem, but they're focused on solutions, building the parallel economy, essentially. And more recently in 2021, I started a company, Live Free Academy. We host workshops, we do consultations, we do in-person conferences, and we're really just helping people to create greater freedom, prosperity, and community, with a focus on building out the counter economy and helping people to become more independent and self-sufficient living in the country. So I'm also a father of 2, got a lovely wife named Rebecca, and we live on a 10-acre homestead here in Central Texas.
There you go. It's all the good things. And by the way, for the folks listening who are long-term listeners of the Brian Nichols Show, they're probably saying, wait, how has John not been on the show yet? Because what John's talking about, especially with that Freedom Cell network, that sounds pretty darn close to what Brian promotes here in the show on the regular. And that is identifying problems we see, bringing solutions to the table, saying, no, Mr. Government, we don't need your help, nor do we need your permission, but we are just going to your point, through the human action, we're going to solve these problems ourselves. And I don't know if it's a matter of it being a libertarian, small L libertarian kind of mentality that runs through some folks, or it's that entrepreneurial spirit, or maybe it's a combination of the both. John, what's been your experience? And you go through and you're working with all these entrepreneurs, and you hear what they've experienced firsthand, and when they bring their solutions to the table, what's kind of the genesis for these ideas? Is it that they have this libertarian streak in them, or they have this entrepreneurial drive to solve problems, and then they realize, oh God, government just happens to always find a way to get in my way?
Well, I guess it's the plight of the libertarians and the entrepreneurs for government to be our enemy. So I've been in the liberty movement for a while, I guess 2007, like I was sharing earlier. And I think the good bulk of people are content to just philosophize and debate about the 1% of things that we disagree on. That's what Twitter is, of course. And
so gross.
I just got totally fed up with that. It was no longer satisfactory for me. But then a lot of people are like, well, if we want to change the world, we got to go vote, and we got to get elected, and we got to go to the Libertarian Party convention. And none of that really gets us anywhere at all. So I do think the special thing about having an entrepreneurial spirit is you're looking to help provide value to other people, to create solutions. So that's a beautiful nexus when you care about freedom, when you see there's problems in the world, and when you're an entrepreneur at heart, you're going to be more motivated to go out and actually do something about it yourself, rather than expecting someone else to do it.
And what's been your experience? Because you've worked with these entrepreneurs firsthand. What's been the feedback? Like, let's maybe give the audience, because there's a lot of folks, like our audience, it's recently grown leaps and bounds as we joined AMP America, and we're reaching tons and tons of new folks. So there's new folks here in the audience who maybe this is the first time that they're hearing a libertarian, a small L libertarian, an agorist perspective, or just an entrepreneurial solution to the problems we see out there. Again, overtly outside of saying, mommy, daddy, government, do these things for us. What have you heard as kind of like, what are the main pain points? Let's start there, that your average entrepreneur faces when they're trying to start off, whether building a solution, a service, whatever it may be, to solve these problems.
Well, I've personally had quite a bit of problems with credit card processing and payments. That's one of the big reasons why I'm a fan of cryptocurrency. So one of my other companies is called Brave Botanicals, and we sell natural health products, primarily kratom. It's a member of the coffee family. It helps folks with stress, anxiety, helps a lot of people to quit pharmaceuticals, in fact, especially pain medication. That's why the government doesn't like it, because, of course, the pharmaceutical companies are in bed with the FDA and vice versa. And so back several years ago, I actually had my credit card processing shut down. And then I tried to, work around that. And ultimately, I had a Stripe account shut down, 2 PayPal accounts, Cash App, Square, and my roommate's Square account, my wife's PayPal. So that was kind of a pain in the butt. It's all part of this federal program called Operation Choke Point, which aims to make it challenging for certain industries to have access to credit card processing. We just barely recently got credit card processing back. But I think the unfortunate thing, and a lot of entrepreneurs have to deal with this, is that most of the regulations and government actions are more about protectionism, protecting the larger firms from competition, than they are about protecting consumers. So if you are going to be an entrepreneur, you definitely have to make sure that you're ready to be persistent, because without persistence, failure is inevitable. You got to push through the challenges, push through the obstacles, and keep trying. You never really fail until you give up.
Here you go, John. You'll appreciate this meme because it pretty much was exactly what you just said here. So this is a meme I shared on my Twitters here back a few days ago. Is that not accurate, right? For the audio listener, you got a gentleman holding a big shield that says government, and his little profile is politicians, and raining from the sky fire that says competition, and he is protecting this nice little girl who has the caption "Their buddies," and he's handing her a beautiful thing of flowers that says regulations. So it pretty much, I think, encapsulates what you're articulating here, John, is that government, it leads with the argument that, well, we're just doing this stuff to help protect people. John, how dare you want to make people's lives worse and make them have more bad things happen to them? Because that's all I hear. No, obviously that's not the case. It ends up being, to your point, they put these stupid rules in place that incentivize the existing folks in the market to maintain that control in the market and push new competition out, or stops them from even having a chance to get started in the first place. So how, now that's the understanding of what we face. How are you and Freedom Cells, how are you guys tackling this challenge head on and actually having success despite all of the extra interference from government trying to help their buddies?
Sure. So I'm a firm believer in the strategy of agorism. This was laid out by Samuel Edward Konkin III in a book called The New Libertarian Manifesto. Definitely a great read. It's very much about creating alternative institutions, or counter economies, as he calls them, in order to facilitate the transition to a stateless society. So you have the above ground white markets, which are traded and regulated, and corporations are involved, and you're using Visa and PayPal, and pretty soon this whole world is going to get consumed by central bank digital currencies, which is something I've done a lot of work to push back on, or at least to help educate people on how they can opt out of those systems preemptively. But agorism encourages people to participate in black and gray markets, underground markets, trading under the table with one another, not asking for permission to get a license. And so what we're trying to do here in Central Texas with our local Freedom Cell community, and what we're trying to do globally, and again, the Freedom Cell Network, there's a website you can join, freedomcells.org, like cells in the body, freedomcells.org. And it's people that recognize there's a lot of ugliness going on in the world. There's an attempt to further centralize power and roll out this technocracy. It's what the Great Reset's all about. Yep. And so we're just trying to gather with other people that see the problem, but are focused on solutions, and start building our own parallel economies and trading amongst ourselves. For example, my company, we have like 24 people that work with us, work for us, and almost every single one of them I met through the Freedom community. Some of them I pay with cryptocurrency too. So we're trying to trade amongst ourselves, buy and sell from one another, hire one another, and ultimately, as the established economy starts to fail, collapse in on itself, become more and more surveilled and even programmed, like programmable money with CBDCs, where they can shut you out of the economy if you go to the wrong protest or if you exceed your personal carbon allowance for the month. We're going to already have decoupled from that system by trading amongst ourselves. So it's not just ideas too. We're really trying to encourage people to practically do this in their lives and understand that it could take several years or maybe generations before we can completely remove ourselves from the legacy system. But that's what the goal is ultimately.
CBDCs. I know like half the audience who's joining us, new here for the first time. They're like, what the hell is that? No worries. We have an entire episode. We sat down with Clay Clark here on the show. He walked through CBDCs, their history with Klaus Schwab, Jeffrey Epstein. It's wild. So we're going to include that link in the show notes. Also, if you're joining us here on YouTube, by the way, it'll pop up like right in the middle of the screen at the end of the show. So just stick around for that. But I want to go back to what you just brought up here, John, with the solutions that are coming from the Freedom Cells Network. Talk to us about what those solutions look like. What are some of these entrepreneurs bringing to the table, in this parallel economy? And frankly, like, are they seeing the success? And I'm going to ask this question by giving a little context first, because I've heard time and again, John, oh, that sounds like a great idea, Brian, but we can't do that because, well, there's not enough people, or, oh, all the red tape that we would have to face, or, oh, we already have something built in this traditional economy. So like, I hear the objections, and for folks out there who maybe they're like, well, this might work for me, but I have these objections still, help walk through like, well, here's what we're currently seeing work, and here are some examples of what people are doing.
Sure. Of course, you being a sales guy, you're always aware of the objection. So that's something I do too. As I'm talking, I'm already anticipating what the objection could presumably be. Then you could preempt the objection through your communication. Because
John, we're speaking the same language, man. I love this.
The worst thing's an unspoken objection. You never want you want to bring them all out and put them on the table and examine them. Anyway, what we really focus on, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs in the Freedom Cell Network. The strategy of the Freedom Cell Network is this agorism thing, which is very entrepreneurial in nature. It's about creating and exchanging value, really. But one of the things that I like to look at, and one of the things we focus on, is examining areas of our lives where we're most dependent on centralized systems. Because when you're dependent on a system that can be controlled, it can be used as a tool to manipulate you. So, of course, during COVID, there was this thing that the government was trying to force people to do. This is going to be on YouTube, so I'll speak very softly.
What was that thing? I forget.
Yeah, that thing that everybody loves so much. That's
man, good times.
So the government tried to pressure people to do that. A lot of people went along with it. A lot of people didn't. And it wasn't until they're like, well, if you don't do it, then we're going to take away your ability to earn a living. Right. So that's the play that the predator class uses. First of all, let's propagandize people and try to just get them to do it, at the beginning. But if they're not going to, then let's pressure them. Let's manipulate them. Let's make life difficult for them. And so this is what's only going to accelerate as we get closer to 2030, which is this big goal of a year for the World Economic Forum and the Klaus Schwabs and the United Nations, where they want to have their technocracy, their rule by scientific dictatorship fully implemented. So the question that we have to ask ourselves is, what areas of my life am I most dependent on these systems? And one of the most important ones, of course, is food. Most people get almost all of their food from the local grocery store. And some people weren't, the folks that refused to wear masks, for example, weren't even allowed to go into the certain grocery stores. But we all know that the supply chain is extremely vulnerable and prone to disruption, especially if there's something like lockdowns going on. And so it's important for people to get their sustenance from a local food producer or from their own property. So one of the things that we do often with the Freedom Cell Network is we work together as a local community. And again, it's a global network, but the emphasis and the action takes place in the local area. So here in Central Texas, there's like 700 participants. And then it breaks down further into the eastern part of town and South Austin, downtown Austin, Williamson County to the north of us. And then it even goes even further where you got your little small group of like 5 or 6 or 7 people. But we're identifying local food producers. For example, I recently bought half a butchered cow with Bitcoin from a local rancher that's right down the street from me. So food is a big area, of course. And then, like I said before, we're trying to trade amongst ourselves, to buy and sell with our community. We're doing a lot of workshops and teaching about cryptocurrency so we can use an alternative currency as well. And more recently, with the whole AT&T thing going down, a lot of people are starting to talk about ham radio and alternative means of communication. So it's just really about identifying areas where we're vulnerable, area attack vectors, so to speak, and then focusing our attention on how can we become more resilient and anti-fragile in those areas. And it definitely helps when you have a supportive community of people that are on the same wavelength.
Just going back really quick to the AT&T thing, folks who watch the show, they know I've spent a decade in cybersecurity. I don't think it was a coding rollout error from AT&T. I'm just going to say that it doesn't look like that. So just keep that in mind, folks. Go get your old fashioned radio. But going back to something you said there, John, and it just kind of sparked it a little bit here in my own thoughts, because we had Michael Seifert on the show, CEO of Public Square. And Public Square is more or less a parallel economy rivaling kind of like Amazon meets Yelp. It kind of feels like. And it sounds like what you're bringing to, in this case, to Texas, but this is obviously not relegated to one specific geographic area, but it's like you're bringing the idea of Public Square to these community-based models and then building around it, where instead of just saying, hey, go buy and sell your stuff here, now it's let's build a community around this. And with that, now you're not just having the buying and selling of goods, but you're building something more that's actually sustainable. Is that fair?
Sure. Yeah. I'm actually doing a workshop this weekend. It's called How to Win Freedom Friends and Activate People. And it's all about how do you break through the social anxiety? How do you strike up a conversation? How do you build meaningful relationships with people that you know? How do you cultivate that trust? And then beyond that, because that's great and we need more of that. But beyond that, how can you actually leverage those relationships to be able to cooperate on building these alternatives and growing your own food and getting the families together? That's one piece of it. And then the other piece is for leaders. We call them activators. How do you activate other people and connect with other people? So yeah, the financial transactions, the barter, the trade, that's really just the means to an end of establishing long-term committed and trustworthy relationships with people. Because I think things are going to get worse before they get better. Yeah. And most definitely the most important asset that we can have is a tight-knit community of people that have our backs.
Yup. Well, you and I were talking about before we hit the record button. But like, get out of big cities, right? I lived in Philadelphia for 7 years, and yeah, holy hell! Like when stuff hit the fan there back in 2020, really opens your eyes quick when you hear your governor on TV saying, we've decided that these employees are essential employees and everyone else is a non-essential employee. And I'm like, well, if I don't pay my bills and my house, like I can't afford anything here, I'm pretty sure my job's essential. And just to get that dystopian like news conference day one of the pandemic, and then to see everyone around me just jump on board, and I'm like, what is happening? I mean, I had groomsmen from my wedding disown me. I had family members being like, Brian, wear the mask at Thanksgiving. And I'm like, this is stupid. Like, and I said, enough of this. My wife and I, we said, no, we're getting out of Philadelphia. We moved to lovely Eastern Indiana, where we live, and now we're growing our family with our lovely, lovely daughter. Like, that is the answer, is get out of these cities where you are quite literally a number. You are not a person. You are a cog in the machine, and go to areas where you have value. Like, I'm in a city, I think we're a population of like 20-ish thousand people. And like, my first experience being here, John, it was nuts. Like, I'm moving my things into my house, and I had a buddy here who like rounded up a group of friends to help unload the trucks and stuff. I have a sitting city councilman who I had never met before helping me move my shit into my house. And I'm like, where am I? Who are these people?
And yet it speaks to why it is so important to surround yourself with good people who bring out the good in other people and actually share values, share principles, share goals, share outcomes. And I look at where I was in Philadelphia and I'm like, oh, dude, I was, probably like one of 35 libertarians. And then like 80% of the city is predominantly Democratic. So like, yeah, I'm definitely a minority's minority in this city and I have no voice. And I see around me the city falling apart. What the hell? So for me, it was an easy jump. Like get out of the big blue city, move to a rural area. But as you said earlier, for some folks, they hear that and they're like instantly objection mode, right? They're like, oh, but I can't because it costs too much money. I have my job here. Family is here. John, there's excuses across the board for anything in life, right? But man, it just comes down to you got to be able to take the steps when you need to take those steps. So as we go towards the end of the show here, John, what would you recommend for folks who they find themselves in these big blue cities? They find themselves listening the objection after objection. I can't do it because of this, and this, and this. What's the pitch? How do we get those folks woken up to the reality that no, you can move out of this city and actually it's a lot easier than you think it is?
Yeah, so we're actually doing an event that's oriented completely towards empowering people to do this.
Well, how about that? That's called a segue if I ever heard one.
Yeah. Yeah, the event's it's called the Exit and Build Land Summit. This will be the 4th time that we do it, and it takes place here in Bastrop, Texas, which is just east of Austin. So I was born and raised in Austin, Texas, and lived there my whole life up until about 2.5 or 3 years ago. My wife and I we busted our butts to save up the money for the down payment, which is one of the big objections people have. I can barely afford rent. How could I possibly put the money together for a loan? Or the interest rates are too high, right? And so we managed to pull that together through some hard work and a lot of sweat and sacrifice. And we bought a 10-acre homestead and raised my 2 kids there. And the event's here in Bastrop. It's a small town, and essentially we gather 450 or so freedom lovers, people that already have land. They're looking for people to move on to the land, people that have land and are looking to sharpen their permaculture or homesteading skills, or people that live in the city, the suburbs, an apartment, and they're like, hey, this isn't working for me. I don't know what to do. Or, as you said, I have these limiting beliefs that are holding me back. Because at the end of the day, more so than external forces, it's our own limiting beliefs, our own self-imposed obstacles that prevent us from getting the life that we want. And so that's something that we focus on at the event. It's not just the tactics and strategies, although you'll learn a lot of the how-tos and step-by-step ABC in order to get stuff done. But we definitely create the event and craft it in a way to help people overcome those limiting beliefs so they can pave the way towards actually doing this. Joel Salatin will be our keynote speaker this year. He's spoken at the Land Summit too. He's real close with us, and he buys into a lot of this renegade philosophy as well. So it's 3 days, the 17th, 18th, and 19th. And then on the 16th and the 20th, we'll be doing tours of local farms and local communities here in the area. So people maybe that don't live out in the country or don't get a lot of time on a farm will be able to actually see what it's like to live the homestead lifestyle. And people can find out more about the event at exitandbuildlandsummit.com.
John, are you telling me that food just doesn't show up at the grocery store?
It doesn't. It shows up with a bunch of chemicals at the grocery store. And then you got to pay extra for the food without the chemicals. It's weird.
Yeah, we're going to put the chemicals on, and then you have to pay us to take them off. That's how it works. That
was a meme too lately. The memes are just fire lately.
Man. Well, John, these are the conversations that I could literally just like go on and on. Now I looked at the clock and I'm like, oh God, we're at 30 minutes already. So I know we're hard pressed for time. So I'll go to the final thought segment first. John mentioned the lovely Klaus Schwab, lovely man indeed. Want to share this? We have our awesome shirt over at the shop, briannicholsshow.com/shop. Go get your Now That's What I Call Tyranny shirt today. Use code TBNS. 10% off your order there. Plus, if you get over $35 worth of goods, you get free shipping. So go ahead, check that out. That's where I'm going to start. And I'm going to finish with a little bit of an aside. And that is, we talk about solutions. We talk about, how do you meet people where they're at on the issues they care about? And how do you build something different. And John, you're doing it. And I'm like, I'm actually a little mad at myself that I'm 810 plus episodes here into the Brian Nichols Show, and I haven't had you on yet, because what you're doing is literally the mission of the show. And I mean, these are the conversations that I live for on this show, because it's people like you who create opportunities for other folks who don't think that there's really anything they can do, to then say, oh, there is a different way. And man, if I had $1 for every time I heard somebody say, like, you know what, I thought X was true, and then I listened to your show and I heard a guest talk about something different, and I was like, oh, you can do that. And that, it for me, is like one of the best moments for me as a host ever, because I hear the like, the aha moment. And I'm sure you're seeing that for yourself. Like, you're bringing entrepreneurs together, you're getting those aha moments. So I just want to say thank you, right, for not only doing this, but I mean, frankly, yeah, you're literally living the values that we promote here day in and day out in the Brian Nichols Show, unintentionally. So I think that's really darn cool. So John, that's my final thoughts for today. What do you have for us on your end? And of course, where can folks go ahead, continue the conversation, social medias, all that fun stuff they want to reach out afterwards?
Sure. Well, thanks so much for having me on. And It's pretty impressive to have 810 episodes. That's a nice, good run. So persistence is a huge factor in success. Unfortunately, a lot of people give up when things get tough. And I just want to encourage people to dig deep inside and to cultivate that inner strength that's necessary to push through and live a life of your dreams. There's absolutely no reason why each and every one of us shouldn't be completely happy with our lives and excited to get up in the morning and looking forward to what the day will bring. But a lot of people are kind of going about life begrudgingly. And more often than not, it's because they're carrying out a program that was imparted upon them, whether it was by their parents in childhood or their social group or culture or the media. And a lot of people in our freedom community, pride themselves in being awake, but then they're just drinking the Kool-Aid of all the fear porn and all the Rumble documentaries, and they're more depressed than their counterparts that are drinking a beer, enjoying a football game, and playing with their kids and couldn't be happier. So I just want to encourage people to set all that aside, find your purpose, what keeps you up at night, what excites you. I've heard that it's your why if you think about it and it makes you cry, something that you just care so deeply about. My kids are a big part of my why. So find that why and allow it to pull you to greater heights, because not one of us is living anywhere close to our true potential. And the more we believe in ourselves, the more we can tap into that energy. And it's gonna be necessary to create a better world, because there's a lot of ugly stuff going on, but it's up to each and every one of us to take responsibility for turning the tide of history. And I'm confident we could do that. And if you like what I had to say, people can join our daily email newsletter at livefree.academy/email, livefree.academy/email. If you want to connect with other freedom lovers in your area, if you live in a mid to large city or town, chances are there's people in your area you can find at the Freedom Cell Network. freedomcells.org is the website, freedomcells.org. And I hope folks will consider joining us at the Exit and Build Land Summit coming up in May. There'll be opportunities to watch virtually as well. And the website for that is exitandbuildlandsummit.com.
Good stuff, John. And who would have thought that my day would have started with a Simon Sinek, thought process, and that's finding your why. I was listening to the Ed Milet podcast at the gym this morning, and then we're ending with it, finding your why, Simon Sinek. So that's pretty cool. John, it's been a great conversation. I love being able to dig into the weeds here with you, because I know you and we both love this stuff. So I really I think this is one of those really fun episodes. I'm walking away today just being like, yeah, we need more of these episodes here in the show. And I know for the folks in the audience who are enjoying, I mean, first of all, please go ahead, give it a share. When you do, tag yours truly at B Nichols Liberty, Twitter and on Facebook. But this is one of those episodes, folks, that this is an episode that makes a difference. So I want you to share this episode with some friends. Go ahead, reach out, tag a few friends here. You need to hear this. Or heck, if you got some entrepreneur friends who are, they're bashing their head against the wall trying to get things started, push them towards John's way, because John has the approach. This is the actual solutions to help solve their problems. So I encourage you, please share this with your friends. And yes, if you haven't yet, sign up for the Live Free Academy email letter. I get it every single day. I read it, John. It's good stuff. So definitely recommend people to go that route as well. And then just a final plug here for the show. audio, video versions of the show. When you go and share the show, wherever it is that you like to consume your podcast content, well, believe it or not, we have it everywhere. So YouTube, Rumble, Ben Swan, Sovereign. We upload our entire videos to Facebook as well as x.com. We are covering our basis. Just do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, little notification bell, and of course, hit the little like button as well. That helps the algos know that, hey, people like this. I almost said shit, but it is good stuff. And then also with that, folks, do me a favor. If you're joining the videos, head down below in the comments. Let us know your thoughts. If you're an entrepreneur, how often do you bash your head against the wall dealing with the red tape of government? Or how many times have you looked around and saw problem, but really no solution? Does this episode change your mind? Would love to hear about it. And then in the audio version of the show, wherever it is you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, I like Podcast Addict. Just do me a favor, hit subscribe, download all unplayed episodes. Reason being, we had, like I said, 800 plus episodes here in the show. I guarantee a handful of them are going to, more than a handful, leave you educated, enlightened, and informed. And speaking of which, my episode with Clay Clark talking about CBDCs, that'll be popping up right about here. So make sure you guys stick around for that on YouTube's. But if you're watching us or listening to us rather on the audio version of the show, link for that in the show notes. Yeah. Oh, one last thing. I was like, I know I'm forgetting something. Please, folks, support the folks who support us. And that is our sponsors. So Cardio Miracle, BNC Technology Advisors, Ebles, CBD, Blood of Tyrants Wine, plus their Liquid Freedom Energy Tea. All amazing organizations. And also, they're the folks who help us keep the lights on. So please support those who support us. That's all I have for you. What an awesome conversation. Thank you, John, for joining. And with that being said, Brian Nichols signing off here on The Brian Nichols Show for John Bush from the Live Free Academy. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.